Hello, everyone. I am very excited to be sharing with you today. I'll let you know shortly why. But first, I want to tell you a story, and this is a true story. It's quite funny, uh, and there's a moral. There's a moral to the tale. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm Catherine G. Lucas. I'm the author of 4 books on harvesting the gifts from crisis and kind of really harnessing the transformational potential within crisis. And I help people kind of embrace their soul's deepest calling, whether you've been through crisis or not, really. So I need to give you a little bit of the backstory before I tell you the actual story. Okay. So what happened was, this is probably a few months ago now. I had a dream, and in the dream, this beautiful figure came to me, and she told me she was the bride of the Camino. Okay, now for those of you who don't know the Camino is a pilgrimage across the north of Spain. It goes kind of like from the French Pyrenees right the way across to Santiago de Compostela. So it's about 500 miles, I believe. And it's really regained in popularity in recent years. So, and that was it. That was the sum total of the dream. Just this beautiful figure comes to me and she tells me she's the bride of the Camino. Now, I mean, who know? I didn't even know that the Camino had a bride. Maybe on some level, she's kind of like the spirit of the Camino. Anyway, I woke up with this urge to do the Camino. Okay. Now, bearing in mind that I am somebody who, never walks more than 2 or 3 miles at a time, maybe like an hour max. And this is kind of like 500 miles or so. So what I decided to do, I decided to kind of have a little trial, like just do a little mini version, just to see how I got on with it. And in fact, this is what I teach in my group programs. It's like, however big and bold our vision, our dream, let's kind of create a mini version. It's what I call a quantum jump, because it's kind of it's a tiny little step, but it can really propel us forward massively towards our vision, our dream. So my mini version of the Camino to was to do a 3 day just a 3 day walk. I thought, okay, let me see if I can do, let me find out how many kilometers, because I'm in here in Spain. I kind of work in kilometers. Let me see how many kilometers I can walk in a day. How many I can do in an hour, just to start getting a sense of, is this really feasible and doable? And and yeah, and also just in terms of, trying out the whole thing. So it was quite something, the logistics to put in place this walk. Locally to where I live in Catalonia, there's actually something called the Via Verde, which it means the green way, or the green road. And it was originally, quite a few decades ago now, a railway track, like a kind of rural railway. That's a tongue twister. Railway track that kind of went kind of from down near the River Ebre, in the flats in the valley, right the way up into the mountains. So and it's been converted now to like a bridle way, cycle track, and walkers as well. And so I thought, okay, so I can, it's let's use this as my kind of version, my local version of the Camino. And I arranged, accommodation for a couple of nights. Even that was, figuring out roughly how far I thought I could walk, and trying to find accommodation that kind of, worked. And so, yeah, so it gave me a sense of what's involved, of how much planning and logistical arrangements are involved in this kind of undertaking. So I set off. I started high up in the mountains, kind of like at a point. Yeah, just beautiful, beautiful scenery. And the advantage of starting up in the mountains is that it's slightly downhill all the way, just very slightly. But I thought, yeah, this is for me starting out. I don't want to be going uphill. so so I set out with my little rucksack. I had a very small backpack, just literally enough like for like staying overnight, like toothbrush and not a lot more. Although it was surprising how heavy the few things that I did have kind of soon became. So this was also part of the learning. It's like, how much can I comfortably carry? And now here's the thing. Although I had done a little bit of research and planning, there was a major flaw in the plan, in that I hadn't allowed for tunnels. Okay, now if you think trains, you think mountains, you're going to realize that there's some tunnels. Okay, and I think I vaguely had an awareness that there would be some tunnels. But what I hadn't appreciated was yeah, just how to navigate these tunnels. Okay, so so I'm kind of going along, and the first few tunnels are kind of fine. Now, what happens is they have lighting, and they have solar panels, because of course it's kind of like in the middle of nowhere. It's in the middle of the mountains, and so these solar panels, and then when you enter the tunnel, it's kind of like a sensor, like a trip switch, and the lights come on. So yeah, great, I can do this. Meanwhile, I did notice not so much the first day, because there was hardly anybody around the first day. It was a weekday. But the next day, on the Saturday, I noticed that pretty much everybody was cycling this route rather than walking it. It's like I barely saw another walker. And some of these tunnels are actually quite long, okay? And so you go into the tunnel, and you can't see the light at the end of the tunnel. Okay, this is the moral. This is where the moral of the story comes in, because they go around bends and things. So very rarely do you actually go into the tunnel and you can see like roughly how long it is and where the light at the end of the tunnel is. So you go into this tunnel, and the mouth of the tunnel is pretty dark, pretty black as you go in. And the sensors come on, the lights come on, and that's all fine. And I'm kind of realizing, that the cyclists have all got lights on their bikes as well, so they've got extra lighting. And so I'm going along. Anyway, this one tunnel, okay, this one tunnel. I go into the tunnel, the lights come on, great, fine. And I'm walking along, just taking my time, walking at a reasonable pace, but, not hurrying. I'm kind of walking along. And then suddenly the lights go out. Okay. And I am plunged into pitch black darkness. Okay. I mean, I don't think I've ever seen that level of darkness. I don't think I could imagine just how black, how dark it can be. And so it's like I'm just, all I can do is just put one foot in front of the next. Okay. And actually, I mean, I'm laughing about it now and smiling about it now, but I was a bit freaked out. And I could kind of feel a bit of adrenaline. It's like, okay, I haven't quite anticipated this. So so I slow down. Obviously, I start walking more slowly, just putting one foot in front of the other. And I start talking to myself, in my head, just kind of reassuring myself, this is fine, you just kind of just keep going. Yeah. There wasn't a lot else I could do, really, because when I turned round, I couldn't see the light behind me either. By that time, I'd got too far into this tunnel. They kind of go downhill as well. So I'm just kind of just slowly putting one foot in front of the other. And then I noticed, because the ground underneath is fairly level, fairly smooth. It's kind of slightly kind of with asphalt or tarmac, it's kind of like a prepared surface. And then I start to notice that underfoot things are getting a bit rougher and a bit more gravelly. So I realized that actually I had veered slightly off to the left, off the path. So I kind of course directed a little bit, and yeah, and then kind of got back on track. And meanwhile, I mean, I don't know whether, I think at the time I was just dealing with the situation. But afterwards, when I was reflecting, I think actually even then I realized, that this was um, such an opportunity to just trust, and to kind of, it's like, yeah, we have these bold visions, we have these dreams. We can't always see one foot in front of the next, and we just have to kind of just keep going, and just trusting, and just putting one foot in front of the other. And I kept going, I just kept going, I kept going, I kept talking to myself. By this time I was talking out loud, just reassuring myself. And then eventually I got to the point, I mean, it felt like a long time, I can tell you. It probably wasn't. But eventually I got to the point where I could see the light at the other end of the tunnel. And isn't that a kind of beautiful metaphor for, we go through something that is challenging. Maybe it's scary, maybe it's traumatic, whatever we go through, like the global crisis that we've been through with the pandemic. And then, eventually there comes a point when we can see the light at the end of the tunnel. And I think certainly with people that I support, who are going through crisis, they're, yeah, we just trust the process. And then the light comes. It's like, after the night, after the dark of night, comes the light of dawn. And for me it was the light at the end of the tunnel. And but I want to tell you the really funny bit about this story. Okay, so the next I think the next couple of tunnels after that were kind of okay. And then I don't know, hang on, I'm trying to remember how it went now. But anyway, basically, no, it must have been the next tunnel. I got to the next tunnel. By now, I've wised up to these sensors that cut out. Because, of course, the cyclists get through the tunnels a lot faster than a walker. So for them, it's not an issue. And they've got lights on their bikes anyway. But so now I've kind of sussed it. So I start in this one tunnel and it's okay. I'm going through, and then the lights go out again, and it's like, oh my goodness, here we go again. But I turned around and I could still see the light behind me. So with this tunnel, I turned. This is further on later in the day. So with this time, I turn around and I walk back towards the light that I can see. And I think, okay, what I'm going to do, I'm going to beat these sensors at their own game. So what I did was I went back to the beginning of the tunnel. And then as I entered, the sensor goes off, the trip switch, it gets tripped and the lights come on. And then I run, okay, as fast as I can. I'm running, and I'm sprinting so that I can get to where I can see the light at the end of the tunnel before the lights go out. And I did that in quite a few tunnels, especially when I could see that they were long ones, because some of them, they actually tell you how many kilometers this tunnel is, and we're talking kilometers with some of them. Maybe only one or two. I don't want to exaggerate here. But yeah, and so the long and the short of it is that I actually gained far more fitness in those 3 days with all this sprinting in the tunnels than I would have done just walking. So that was an added bonus. But I just wanted to tell you that because it was so funny once I realised that that's what I needed to do to kind of make sure I didn't get plunged into pitch black again. So I wanted to share that with you. And so let me tell you why I'm so excited. I am about to go on retreat. I'm about to go to Plum Village for 3 weeks, and I know it's just going to be an amazing opportunity. I think it's going to be really transformational. I've kind of told one or two people, I expect to come back a changed woman in some way, in some shape or form. And so you won't be hearing from me for a little while, but I have invited Mick Collins and Kylie Harris, who you'll remember from our Birth of New Earth series, to share guest posts. Kylie's got some very exciting news of projects happening in Australia to share with you, and Mick and I are kind of dreaming up something which he'll be sharing with you as well. So look out for those posts while I'm away, and go well. And I will have no doubt a full update for you of how the retreat went when I get back. So bye for now.